Hi, class. Professor Ortiz, and I want to welcome you um, to my class. And this is somewhat of an opening assignment I wanted to share with you. You know, one of the things I want to make sure as you walk out of my class, as you pass this class and you move on to your next English class or your next class that requires reading and writing, like I really want you to walk away with some hard skills that are translatable in any course that you take. So if you're taking a history class, if you're taking a math class, I want to make sure that you walk away with some skills that you learned in this class that are useful or that can be useful um, for your other classes. So the first thing I want us to practice in this class is something that I call talking to the text. Another way of saying talking to the text, if we want to shorten it, is 4T notes. So T as in Tom, 4T notes. And if you're not taking notes right now, you should. So make sure that you have your iPad, your Word doc, your notebook, whatever it is, your phone. Like this would be a great time for you to start taking notes. So 4T notes is a strategy for annotation as you're reading that helps you process what you're reading. But I would say that what's most important about the strategy, that it helps you document what you're thinking as you're reading. 4T notes is an example of how you can process and document what you're thinking as you're reading. Now, the reason why this is important is sometimes we read something and then we have to look at a question that you're going to be answering for this class. And then you'll be like, okay, I forgot what happened at that point in the story, or what did she say about that again? And one way to keep track of what you're thinking and how you're feeling about what you're reading is to annotate. Essentially, what that means is to take notes as you're reading. The strategy, though, is a way to document what you're thinking as you're reading. And so I'm going to give you an example as for your first assignment. I will give you an example of that. And then you will have a question you need to answer. But very briefly, I want to share screen. So I did a whole training for other faculty on this model, 14 notes, and I want to show you some explanation on what that would look like if you were doing your own 14 notes. So these are the types of notes that I want you to take. The first type of note is, as you're reading, if you have any questions, or if there are questions that you are considering as you're reading, I want you to document that. If you develop any personal opinions, I agree with this or I disagree with this, I want you to take notes. What was the author saying? You can highlight it. You can write your notes on the side or on a separate sheet of paper. What was the author saying that you agreed with or that you disagreed with? Personal connection. So if this reminds you of something that you learned in a history class, or if this is, if this reminds you of a personal memory, keep track of that. Remember, you're not sharing these notes. These notes are for your benefit. Summaries. So I find summaries very helpful whenever I'm reading something that's very dense or that has a lot of ideas going on. I like to write like one little sentence after each passage, like, here she's focusing on the concept of love as a practice of freedom, right? So keeping track of what the author is saying, especially when the reading is long or when it's like stacked with a lot of ideas, you want to keep track of that. So a quick one sentence summary after every couple passages is very helpful. Feelings. If you felt anything, if you had a reaction to anything that you read, you want to keep track of that. So, right, so this made me really sad, or this made me feel very inspired. Fix-ups, I need to ask about, or I need to reread the section when I'm less tired. So fix-ups are important too, because Sometimes, you develop questions that you might want to ask me, during office hours, or you want to send me a quick message on Canvas and say, you know what, I was confused about this. Then that gives me an opportunity to make you a lecture video to help you figure out where you got stuck. So if you were writing in an article or in a book or something like that, here's a brief example of what it might look like. Sometimes students, for a lot of students, this is too much, right? It's a little distracting. So they would rather write their notes on a separate sheet of paper. You can do that as well. Or you can write it directly onto your reading assignment. Or if you have an app where you can annotate something that you're reading, you can do that as well. So this is an example of taking 14 notes. And I would recommend that if you are, I'm going to stop sharing screen, that if you are at any point reading or watching a lecture video, that, that requires you, especially that, you're going to be required to write something about it, just make sure that you keep track of those types of 14 notes. I have uploaded a little instructions on Canvas as well. It's titled 14 notes. If you need to see the questions again, if you need to see the example again, there's a handout that's uploaded onto Canvas for you that you can actually have a snapshot of what that looks like. There's also a video link where a teacher goes little by little, right, step by step, and explaining what these notes are. But I want to, for this first assignment, I want to read something to you to give you an example of how I process my thinking, but I'm going to make another video for that.